Hello and welcome back to Actual Play, playing Sync. I'm so excited. If you've been around since this morning, this is our first Actual Play double feature. It's super rad that I get to play with all these rad people. I'm Sean. I use he, him pronouns, and Sync is a game that I have been watching for a while now, and I've been really excited to play it. And our characters are so cool and all intertwined with each other in fun, cool, messy ways. And I want to see how that plays out in game. And also, we did some fashion stuff before the game, and I've been having a good time playing with what we're wearing. So it's all good stuff. How about you, Kara? How are things?
Things are good. We're LARPing it today. This is an actual play stream LARP. That'd be fun if there actually were LARPs on Twitch. I guess there probably are. Anyway, that's a sidetrack. Hi, I'm Kira. I'm designing this game that we're playing today. It's called Sync. It is a cyberpunk fields-focused non-violent game. And it is set in near future Miami, which is Miami is one of my favorite cities in the real world. So I'm excited to imagine that it's summertime and we're in palm trees, even if it is a slight dystopia. And also, this episode is dedicated to Janelle Monáe's Dirty Computer, which I've been obsessed with for 3 days straight. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. It's basically an episode of this game. So that's what I'm excited about today. Andy, how about you?
Golly, I am really excited daydreaming about summer. Hi, my name is Andy. My pronouns are she and her. Can it please be summertime yet? I'm really there. Perhaps the thing I want to mention is I'm going to be playing the Analyst Playbook. My character's name is Nash, and their pronouns are she, her. And I'm real excited about the part where Sean pulled a dirty trick on me. And Nash is in love with Sean's character, Tessa. That's what I got going on. We'll see what that looks like. Karen, how's it going?
It's pretty good. My name is Karen. My pronouns are she, her. I'm going to be playing the driver, Lido, whose pronouns are he, him. I'm super excited just to play this game. We've got a ridiculous love triangle thing going on and a lot of fun moves, and I can't wait to see some of those in action.
Rad.
Did I need to say something else?
No.
Okay.
I'm just excited. I'm just doing that really awkward segue of introductions into game.
Okay. How's that going?
It's going. It's going
cool.
along.
All right.
I'm sorry. I'm listening to Janelle Monáe in the background. It's probably distracting me.
Probably.
But
it's hard not to be distracted by Janelle Monáe. She's magical.
Just as like a general rule.
Yeah.
So we were in the middle, or not the middle. We were finishing up character and setting creation.
Yes.
And let's flip over to that.
Yeah, and if we can go over what we've done so far, just as a refresh for everybody, that might be a good place to start. If everyone is down for that. I think we can get everything done and start playing a bit today. So some of the things we can see in Roll20, everything that we picked. But can you all just describe your characters really quick again? Like just go over like a brief like who you are and what you're doing.
Yeah. Karen, how about you tell us about Lido?
Sure. Lido's is a driver. His pronouns are he, him. He's toned. He has cool eyes. His car is pretty awesome. It's he's got a remote control for it. It's wireless. He has a hot shit garage. He keeps it fastidiously clean. I think we said it has the shape of a vintage Jaguar, little 2-door roadster thingy.
All matte finish, right?
Yeah. So his car is amazing. That's one of his moves.
Cool.
He can communicate. He has the ability to kind of do some nonverbal communication fairly well. He can bug out of situations when he just can't deal to go recover. And Yeah, I think we decided Leto and Tessa kind of had a bonding moment when he was helping her set up some art installation. And Tessa and Leto have both dated Nash. Leto's on good terms with Nash, or at least in his mind, because he never really felt like maybe they were dating anyways. It's very unclear. He kind of just drifts in and out of relationships. But he's cool with her past, her dubious past.
Does he Tokyo drift in and out of relationships?
Kind of.
Sorry. Cool.
Nice.
All right. And you described both your relationships with Tessa and Nash, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yeah.
So Sean, do you want to go next?
Sure. Tessa is a designer. She has a killer pad / workshop. It's very like like every like warehouse industrial space that is converted to also living space and party space at the same time. A lot of those parties are not necessarily like super safe in regards to there being all this industrial manufacturing equipment everywhere. But it's not like buzz saws it's not like an obstacle course danger zone. It's just there is an arc welder that's constantly just has the pilot flame going and things like that. And her aesthetic is very much like worn and sort of tattered clothes because she's constantly working with her hands and things get sort of beat up by nature. Herself as well. She's got lots of little scars all over that are from burns and things like that. They're not like sentimental. They're just a sign of her craft. The thing that sort of sticks out and is like Kira's super rad glasses have completely like stolen the show. But if you can imagine, Tessa also has super rad glasses that are like trying to be as rad as Kira's. So, and they have like that whole heads up display and all that jazz.
Cool.
When she pulls them down, though, she has very arresting eyes. She catches people with her eyes. Kira's relationship with Leto is that of friends and just as of recently, like hookup buddies. They had this installation, and Leto was kind enough to let her. Tessa uses she, her pronouns, to let her use his car to move stuff around. It was an ordeal to get it all in and make sure it fit just perfectly and didn't muss anything.
Mm-hmm.
But nevertheless, he was like super helpful when it came to the actual setting up of the installation. And it was also like really hot to have him like lifting heavy things and whatnot. And it got kind of steamy, and then they hooked up afterward. But like this still just feels like Leto's her friend, a good friend. Nash, however, Tessa doesn't know all of Nash's story. Doesn't know necessarily about her criminal background, and we were lovers, like in relationship lovers, for a hot minute, and then that has fizzled. And we don't really know exactly where that sits now, right? I'm excited to find out where that goes.
Yeah.
So Tessa always has people over. Her place is kind of the population is sort of mercurial. That people are often sleeping in her warehouse space that she knows at least by like 1 degree of separation. Yeah.
Cool.
So good.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So how about Nash?
Oh golly. So Nash is analyst, uses she, her pronouns. And I think the most important thing we can know about Nash is that they have like fantastic, spectacular bedhead always. No matter what.
Oh yes.
That's critical.
How does she feel about people touching it?
You want to find out?
That'll be a roll, please.
Yeah, right.
But maybe exceptions could be made.
That's funny.
I think things that we know about Nash at this juncture is that she's energetic and moves around a lot. Is fairly like physically present in a space, and under all of that, in relationship to all of that, we see Nash has got really stressed out eyes. And I think part of that is conveyed because she's got like an implanted HUD. So she's always like, she's possibly always working and doing data stream stuff, even when she's out in the world, or minding the feeds. So I think there's some of that going on. Other things we know about Nash is that Nash has like a big snarl of like daisy chained old crappy laptops that are how everything like is her like technology stuff, and then also has put together like a custom like data aggregator that the more I think about it, it might be like a pretty low key AI friendo. We'll see.
Cool.
Seems important. Seems like that entity might have a name and have some opinions.
I kind of love the idea that it like all exists in this cobbled together network, right? Like that maybe you can't fit it on any one of these machines. It's sort of like,
Yeah.
because when one goes down, it gets sort of glitchy and you have to fix it.
So good.
It's very Mr. Robot. I don't know if you have seen Mr. Robot, Andy.
I have not had the pleasure, no. So
yeah, it's like a similar aesthetic. It's just like crappy old machines and
great.
Except he's very paranoid about data getting out. So every time he saves some data, he like destroys that hard drive and puts in a new one.
Awesome. So good. All right.
So if you do have an AI data aggregator that you want to keep safe, I don't know how you would feel about destroying it, but that could be interesting.
In my imagining, because I feel like because technology is more pervasive, like Wi-Fi connectivity stuff is a given.
Yeah.
So like its home address might be like its point of origin might be those laptops, and I imagine it probably lives in some cubby of the internet somewhere.
Yeah, some cloud space.
So
outside of net neutrality laws.
Yeah, all that good stuff.
Yeah, cool.
And I think the only other thing worth noting is that as the analyst, Nash is arguably as good at reading people as she is at reading data. So reflected in those moves that I picked.
Yeah. Cool. Awesome. Thank you for your brief descriptions.
And is in love with Tessa.
Oh.
Very important. I forgot.
That is an important thing to note. True love.
Yeah, I think that reminds me of a Tessa aesthetic, which is while Tessa doesn't necessarily do a ton of work on cars per se, I think that's very much Leto's thing. Seeing Tessa roll out from underneath something on a dolly, like laying down on a dolly, like kind of sweaty and with various like holding some tool is definitely a like hot moment in Tessa. Like this is what Tessa is looking very
fetching.
Yeah.
Oh no, and back to the skateboards. There's so many wonderful shenanigans to get into.
Yeah, I'm gonna read through the things that we picked actually, so that we can remember all the stuff that we've done, all the hard work that we've done describing Miami. Let me see. So that description of lady love and like someone rolling out on a board reminded me so much of like season 4 L Word. I just had flashbacks of like, I don't know if you see it. There's like a deaf sculptor character, and she's always like in overalls, and like, what's her face from Flashdance falls in love with her. Anyway,
sounds great.
It's great.
Yes.
So in near future Miami, too many hurricanes have begun flooding parts of the interior, making certain parts of the city underwater and transforming some old roadways into waterways. The culture is still predominantly Hispanic and Latino, or Latinx. I know that that's not, the term is wishy-washy, so I'm not sure how to use it, but maybe we'll use that one. And the history has a great influence over contemporary race and class issues. So the things that we picked so far in near future Miami 10 seconds in the future, is that there are, I guess that's on the roll 20. Well, I'll just read them all. So we have private beaches, underwater clubs, boardwalks, outdoor seating everywhere, with like elevated cafes and balcony seating for restaurants, kind of like a posh thing. There's a shopping and financial district, which is particular about who they let into the district. They don't like poor people being there. And then there's amphibious food trucks, one of my favorite additions.
Pretty
There's
rad.
yeah, a skateboard park, which Andy seemed really excited about. A rooftop hangout that's a dive bar, and the first floor is flooded, so that's super cool. And then for arts and culture, we have an international scene. Got lots of bright colors. We've got street art, floating buildings, Art Deco hotels, glass skyscrapers, industrial platforms, and docks with rusty metal and seaweed barracudas. That's not right. Barnacles.
Also barracudas, I think.
Barracuda. And then we also have for I think I blended art, culture, and architecture, and that's fine. But for transportation, we have AI buses that are always late, hoverboards, hydro-powered cars, and personal boats. These are all options that we picked off of the sheet, if we remember. And then for the atmosphere in Miami, we have it's a travel destination. Kind of outdated as far as cities go in America, like compared to other cities. So there's like a bunch of corporate plans that are taking place here, but they don't really care about the people that live here. And as for the travel destination, it's kind of like there's touristy things, lots of outsiders, and there's kind of a resort economy where there's like people coming from outside, staying in resorts in Miami. It's like a fancy place to be, which means that lots of people that live and work in Miami have to cater to tourists. So that creates kind of a class issue with resorts and everything. So that's everything we have so far. We still have to do a little bit more here. So I don't know, Sean, if you still have this sheet to share for that has, it's like the Miami sheet.
Yeah, the NPC generator.
No, actually, it is a document with like all the character sheets on it. If not, that's okay.
I am just slipping. Why don't you shoot me a link and I'll catch up. You send it to me and I'll get it on the screen eventually.
Yes.
I do have the NPC generator. I turned that into a handout so that we could all look at it.
Oh, cool. I have only a PDF.
Yes. Yes, I now recall that. I will pull that up. It'll be up shortly. We'll see if it looks good too.
I can email it to you again.
Nah, I got it. I know.
Okay, cool. You've got it. Sorry, I had to think about how to send that to you. Yeah, it'd be helpful to look at the demographics for all of us, basically.
Yeah, tell me what page on the PDF we're looking at, and I'll follow it up.
It is
27.
Yeah. Wow, you were on this.
My goodness. Bam. Okay.
Boom. Yeah.
I'm gonna get this in a second.
So
there it is.
This is important because this is not only the demographics of Miami, but this is also the demographics of your characters, which we haven't picked yet. We haven't picked the character races. And I've agonized about how to do race in this game because I think race and culture are really important in Cyberpunk, and it shouldn't just be willy-nilly. You're just choosing anything. I think it should be tied to the place that you're in, because I think that that's how race works in the real world. There's like different demographics depending on what city you live in. But I'm not a race expert, so if anyone watching this has a cooler idea, if any of you have a cooler idea about how to do this, I'm all ears. But basically what I did was I kind of looked at current demographics in contemporary Miami. So we can kind of look at these. These are what's on this sheet and futurify them a little. I imagine they'll be probably a little bit more mixed and diverse, and I would like them to be that way. But, when you're thinking about your character's race, kind of take a look at these options, and I would say try not to be white. Just because I think that we want to think about demographics that are more impacted by class issues, by oppression, And that is still true in the near future, Miami. And I think representation is important. So as long as you're comfortable with playing a non-white character, think about picking, Hispanic or Latino. And there's like kind of some options of Hispanic and Latino demographics in Miami. There's a lot of Cuban culture, a lot of Haitian culture in Miami. There's a lot of Black culture and a little bit of Asian. So I wanted to include that, but it is a very small percentage. But you don't have to just pick one. You could pick two and mix them. So think about what you'd like your character to be. So far, there's not really anything else connecting me to a demographic. So think about what do you think? Sean, are you about to say something?
Yeah. I've been thinking about Tessa a little bit about
Cool.
this as we've been going, and I believe that Tessa's from the DR. She's a Black Hispanic woman, and she's. I think there's because I've just been reading the Brief and Wondrous Life of Oscar Wilde. I've been hearing a lot about folks in the DR, and that means it's in my head. It means I have zero expertise, but at least it's the notion is in my head. So yeah, so she's a very dark-skinned Black woman from the Dominican Republic, and from my understanding, there is a lot of folks from the DR that are in Miami by way of Cuba. It's sort of like a natural path that way. So
cool. And the DR being the Dominican Republic. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. Sounds great. All right. I'm sorry, were you done? Did I cut you off?
Yeah, no, that's that. And in terms of the world building stuff, I think we're keeping track of all of that either on our character sheets or that you're doing it on the Roll20 sheet, right? So I'm going to throw that in my character sheet. But if there's anything else, will you throw it onto the Roll20 screen? Does that work?
Do you mean as far as demographics?
Well, if we're doing any other editions, like we'll put the rest of like the central stuff in Roll20.
Oh,
does that sound
yeah,
right?
yeah. Gotcha.
Cool.
Gotcha. Cool. So yes, Andy, Karen, what race do you think your characters will be?
Do you have a strong sense of anything in the minute, Karen, or do you want me to?
Yeah, I don't have a strong sense. If you have an idea, to jump on in.
Great. I've been thinking about this over the course of just since we last played, trying to figure out how to be like accountable, right? As someone who's white and who's going to fuck it up.
Absolutely.
Right. And I want to make space for that as a thing. And like, here I am, that's a thing. And it's important to acknowledge that.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that. If I fuck up, I want to hear about it. And I believe that Nash is Filipino. So I feel like in amid all of this really strong like Latinx, or like we can talk about how to talk about racial identity, right? Because there's also how do we address the population of Miami. But in amid all of that, we have all that international travel. And I'm interested in the idea of how I feel like Miami is regarded as like this really gorgeous, like desirable destination, and college kids are subject to wanting to go to cool places too. So I don't know if Nash is from the area or like moved there from elsewhere, and I don't know yet, but I'm interested in the idea of the part where Miami is attractive to outside folks for a variety of reasons.
Yeah, cool.
I think I'm gonna pick Cuban.
Cool.
And I'm just gonna leave it at that. I think my default is to have some discomfort in like, is this cultural tourism? And saying that my character is something other than Caucasian. So I don't know if I will bring a whole lot unique to this character or play him in a particular way that I think race would make a difference in how I do the gameplay, just because I don't want to make that a thing. I don't know.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, no accents across the board.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we're all white here. So that's just another thing to keep in mind. I played this game with a bunch of different people from different heritages and backgrounds. And so I think when everyone's white, you just have to hold each other accountable and try and do our best. And if anyone has feedback, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
I trust and like you all. and the X card is important too. But you know, I think race is important, especially in Miami. So cool. And so after that, we have subcultures, and I will just read these aloud to you. Some options. Let's all pick one again. So we have the subcultures that exist in near future Miami. We've got mermodders. We have electronic musicians, lifestylers.
Can you say what mermodders are?
Well, that's up for interpretation.
Okay.
So
Can you? Yeah.
Yeah. So in my idea, you know, like mermaids, mermodders. I kind of just wrote down a whole bunch of what is it, like sensational sounding things, and then we can kind of define them a little bit more.
Oh, cool. Okay, awesome.
Yeah. So these are not like things that have a whole lot of definition in my mind. But yeah, I was thinking people who like some kind of mermaid culture.
Nice.
Yeah. And then
Awesome.
we have electronic musicians, lifestylers. So I don't know what that is either. It could be any lifestyle maybe that's become big. Drag life. So like kind of drag the future of drag kings and queens and genderqueers. And street gangs, brand ambassadors, bedroom girls. I want to emphasize this is not a sex thing. It's more of a, you know, the tradition of like girls making things in their bedrooms. That's kind of
I'm not familiar with that as a thing.
Oh, so you know how like often girls will be pictured in their bedroom like writing in a journal or hanging out with friends or making music or
Got it.
creating something. It's kind of
Okay.
like some aesthetic of a creator. Like you're making things in your bedroom, and your bedroom is a powerful place. And
Got it. It's the like
thing.
the fem read on like a bedroom DJ.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Fandom. I just put queers as an option, but maybe it's too big. And hover folks, which I imagine are people who really are into hover technology. So I'll start. I would like to have mermodders. I'll just put that in. You want to pick next?
How many are we picking? Are we each picking one?
We'll each pick one.
Okay, nice. I would like to see drag life as someone who doesn't like participate in drag except for as like purely audience. Again, I have like trepidations of representing that poorly, and so I also would like to, you know, please, I don't want to fetishize drag. I have sort of like an awkward reaction because it's like it's presentation at like by default, so like there's a certain degree to which like it's meant to be spotlighted, but I don't want to do that disrespectfully, but I'd love to see it like featured in the game.
Cool. Andy?
Oh golly.
If we so let me say the things we don't pick, that doesn't mean they're not in the game. It just means there's probably less representation of them. So like for example, if we don't pick queers here, it doesn't mean there's no queer people. It just means
I was just saying like everyone playing all the characters.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh gosh, I think I go back and forth between being really excited about electronic musicians and hoverfolk. So those are the two things that I'm on about. And of course, a big part of the hover focus I'm thinking around, of course, back to like skateboarding, and then applying that to the water. Like I start thinking about that kind of thing. So I guess I'm going to pick that one. The Great Hover Focus.
Right. That
There.
one that you're super excited about.
Yeah.
I'm really digging the like juxtaposition of like somebody in a pool, and I don't know if like there's sort of like a cosplay or element of it, like wearing mermaid tails or having sort of like mermaid effects or something like that. And like somebody sitting like on a hoverboard, like 3 feet above the pool, like hanging out with them, like sitting on their little hoverboard, talking with the person like, halfway in the pool. I don't know if this is like the juxtaposition you're thinking of. But.
This is good art. I'm excited about that.
Yeah.
I love it. For some reason, having that culture, it's kind of like surf culture, or I don't know. It reminds me of what's with like Keanu Reeves, where he shoots the gun into the air.
Point Break, which is total surf culture. Yeah.
Yeah, like surf culture is like Point Break in the future.
Yes, the book that very far back down its pedigree is based on is a book that is like known as one of the few in like the progenitor of surf noir.
What? I didn't even know that was a thing.
It's great. So
what's the name of this book?
I'm gonna of course blank on it, but the most important part is that the book is by Kim, Kem Nunn, Nunn, and I'll just look it up so that I can remember because it's important.
Surf noir. I feel like that's an important genre, especially to noir, both noir and cyberpunk.
Surf City
type thing.
It's the Dogs of Winter.
Okay.
Oh my god, amazing name.
Yeah. So
cool.
There you go, surf noir.
Surf noir.
Rad.
Okay, Karen, do you have a subculture you would like?
Yeah, so which 3 do we have already?
We have mermodders, we have drag life, and we have hover folks.
Could you define again lifestylers?
Lifestylers. It's a little loose, to be honest. I just kind of made it up.
Okay.
Because I imagine, like, you know how there's people who are like very much about their, like, they're really into dogs, or like they're really into they're really into denim jeans, like you know, people who are like obsessed. That's how I imagine lifestylers to be. It's like these people who are like very obsessed with one thing.
Yeah, let's do that. I like the communities that come up over very specific things.
Yeah, it's kind of like the internet, or like Meetup, or like
yeah,
which I think is super weird that we can do that now, because we have the ability to communicate with people who like the same things as us. So yeah, anyway, cool.
Yeah.
All right, styles. Let us each pick one. This is a long list. So we've got clean white linen, showing skin, plastic, Miami Vice 80s retro, Hollywood glamour, digital ads, elevated highways, smoke, crumbling sidewalks, street fashion, shady folks on corners, public transit, murals, whole blocks drowned in water, and reflective glass. Some of these are a little repetitive of some of the previous things, and that's fine. I was trying to get like the full style of Miami and what might be there, and as far as like the style and what we see. So I think that I will probably pick plastic. Andy, would you like to pick next?
Sure. Yeah. All of them. Let's go with street fashion.
Cool. Karen?
The clean white linen for sure.
Nice.
Yeah.
I always think about linen suits. I love that look. I think it looks so classy and comfortable, but very wrinkly, very easily wrinkly. It's actually really high maintenance.
Yeah. I used to work at this hippie store, and we sold like that hemp linen or whatever all the time. All these older hippie ladies. I always wanted to be one of them and like wear the linen, and I can't pull it off. You get to be older to wear, I don't know, older rich. I can't pull off the linen. Okay, and Sean?
I would like showing skin, and I want to kind of preface it by saying like what I don't want to see is lots of like women objectified as sex objects on beaches. And what I do want to see is lots of people of all genders like being very comfortable in their skin and like having like cut off shorts and like shirtless tees and certainly like bikinis as well, but not with this like super emphasis on let's show all these super gorgeous women as set dressing, right? Like, and I think that's one way of showing skin, and that's not the direction that I want to be leaning towards. It's just like people real comfortable with their bodies.
Yeah. Well, and it's hot. There's the beach there, and have the historical culture in Miami Beach is like these beautiful sculpted bodies, and having a body and what you can modify it to look like in the future, I think is really interesting. And the parts that you can show off, I think we can play off a lot.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. Awesome. Okay, and finally we've got food. This is important. So again, we're not limited to these. These are the things that we can go to as points. So we've got Cuban food, seafood, exclusive, so expensive, 5-star or whatever. Local, Spanish, crabs, mojitos, cortadito, which I think that's a pastry. I'm not remembering correctly.
It's coffee. It's a coffee beverage.
Thank you. Yes. Yeah. Isn't that a Cuban coffee?
It is it's like in general with a really heavy mix of espresso with like a pretty like high fat content milk product. To my understanding, I could be incorrect.
Yeah. Yeah, they're delicious. Cuban sandwiches, pastelito, medianoche, and croquetas. So I wrote all these down because I couldn't remember all their proper names, and now I don't remember what they are at all. So if we want to Google, I feel like a pastelito is actually the pastry I'm thinking of.
Cool.
Yeah. I was just looking it up because I was like, what is that?
Yeah, these are all. I love food. I love eating food of all cultures, and I think when I think of cyberpunk settings, when I see Blade Runner. You see Deckard walking down the street, eating all the street food, and like the mix of food that's represented. I think that's important to highlight when you're talking about the culture of the city.
Yeah.
So I think I'm going to pick the cortadito because I love those. Who wants to go next? Any ideas?
All of it. I like
all
food.
Of it.
I'm sitting here enjoying the part where we spend way too much time deciding the name of each of the food trucks the amphibious food trucks that exist in this wonderful version of Miami.
Yeah. I really want crabs because
Great.
I love the idea that there might be amphibious food trucks that are like also like fishing vehicles, like that, like theoretically you could get like really fresh crab. It's probably like a complete scam. Like I don't actually believe in that, but like I like the aesthetics of crabs, just like lots of them climbing all over each other, like in tanks.
I like the restaurants where you have a giant mallet and like a bunch of other tools, and you get to feel like some type of savage because you tear apart all of your food on the table.
I used to eat the blue stone crabs, I think, where you actually eat the claws because the claws are so big and they're this bright blue color. I feel like that's really like, I don't know, cyberpunk somehow, like a neon blue crab.
Yeah.
It's fun times.
Yeah. Okay, so we got cortaditos, crabs.
I'm just gonna jump in and say we absolutely need Cuban sandwiches because I want to eat one right now.
Yes.
So
excellent.
They're very high up there in my favorite sandwiches.
Cool.
So
awesome. I realized as I'm looking at this, I didn't add any vegan options, and I'm vegan.
That's something to think about and add. Honestly, you should have some other like vegetarian, vegan.
Yeah.
Well, then in the spirit of sort of spreading that out, how about some really great like vegan and raw Like it would be I was just sitting here like thinking about like there's the list of food, like all of these wonderful lists could be so long. And I'm just like, how many wonderful different cuisines, like how many different versions of noodles and whose kinds of curry, and started to get real bent out of shape in a real nice way. All right, what kind of Malaysian food?
I don't know, if we've got also this mix of like upper class tourists, I bet there's a lot of like goddamn smoothie bars.
Yeah.
Just saying, lots of tropical, frozen blended beverages
Absolutely.
Apple, mango.
that like are with the health food mix. Like they've all got acai in them, or like whatever superfood is big that season, and it
Sure.
rotates.
I
I
love-
already made my food choice. I'm just excited by this thing that is now in my head privately.
I'm
Smoothies.
We
Yeah.
have a smoothie bar now. 'Cause it's
Health food
amazing.
smoothies.
Yeah.
That are like $12.
Yeah.
16.
Well, yeah, probably like 30.
Yeah, inflation.
I don't know. Like imagine, yeah.
I was just thinking like
Three.
what Jamba Juice charges right now, and then double it like that.
I mean, they already exist.
Yeah.
It's true. So
But if
10
yeah.
seconds in the future, they're just more expensive.
But if it's like a smoothie clinic, you know, where you come in and there's a very it's very cool inside. It's like super air conditioned, and there's like cucumber water to like open your palate and get you ready. For
There's like
smoothie.
clinicians, there's like people who give you a health profile and then tell you like
Then
what
it's a $50 smoothie. right?
kale blend you need.
gross. And then they inject it into you.
Right.
Mhm.
Injectable.
I'm sad about this.
Gross.
Sorry, we just made it gross.
Sean and I did juices for a while. We were experimenting. We have a juicer, but then I realized like juicers, unless you have the type that masticate the juice, you lose all the protein and you just get all the carbs and sugar
Yeah.
from the fruit.
Yeah.
So
Juice
it's
is
not-
actually not as good as just eating the fruit.
So we were making green juices,
Yeah.
which was a little bit better.
Yeah, slightly. Yeah, yeah. There's something that we don't understand actually still about the science of like chewing your food and like the actual act of like chewing, and then how that affects your gastrointestinal. I don't know. I'm really into it.
Yeah, there are juicers that will pulp everything and like they're like masticators and we'll get the fiber in there.
Wow.
I'm a fan of chewing. It's a sensation I like when I'm eating food.
Our juicer is now in the garage. We went after that fad passed as we realized that we were just getting carbs and like no,
Oh no.
nothing filling.
So Andy, what kind of food would you like?
Sorry.
No, this is a good side.
Oh, you were talking about something raw and vegan. Yeah. So, and like curries and noodles and stuff and mixing cuisines. There could be like seaweed or something. That's kind of like
Mm,
I
Love
want
seaweed salad.
vegan fusion food.
vegan fusion.
That's
Yeah.
what I would like.
I am into it. And cool. So now all of our choices have been made for all of the styles that exist in Miami.
Yeah, I'm thinking of all these sushi bars that are super like neon and like amazing colors, and the like what would be the sashimi on the roll is like instead some still like wildly colorful, but like this bright orange vegetable, this bright shoot or something like that on top of the rice and seaweed.
Yeah.
No,
Well, and probably, I mean, how accessible is natural food anymore? Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? Cool. So the purpose of this is just kind of we have this list of stuff we can always go back to, and we've like kind of created the signature styles, the things that exist here. So we don't really have to make them up. We've already made them up. We've done the work. So that's kind of the purpose of everything we just did. Yay! Thank you, everybody.
Yeah.
Good creative collaboration.
Also hungry.
Oh yeah, I'm thinking
Right.
of sushi now. Thanks, Sean.
Sorry.
No, it's great. I love it. So we built our city. we built some of the things that are we have like a nebulous neighborhood. Y'all live in a shitty part of town. You don't make much money. So,
Right.
you probably live together. One of you has a pad, and that's Tessa. So you might all live at Tessa's if that's okay with Sean.
That's fine with me. It seems to me like Leto and Tessa's it's not like Tessa's messy. She just has more stuff than she has places to put it.
Mhm.
And so for Leto to live in Tessa's space, I don't know if that's okay with Karen. Like it
Leto
seems
is
to me
extremely
like
organized. Like he wheeled in his own. Like not only does he have an extremely well organized like tool chest in his garage, but like he applies that sorting to his life. So
Yeah.
like has like those Tupperware drawer sets that are like labeled with all of his things.
Mhm.
And he just wheels in. He's like, and I moved in.
I feel like if it's okay with you that your garage and my workspace are kind of the same thing. I don't know if
Whoa.
your garage is like a move that has special powers, but it seems to me like
I think I kind of want him to have his own space. I
That's
feel
cool.
like he might go so far as to actually have a bed in there. And he just like converted his garage into also his apartment.
Yeah, it could be like an upstairs, downstairs type of situation.
Mhm.
And you could be in an apartment building, and there could be like a garage attached or some kind of weird feature thing like that.
Mhm.
It could be like an old, an old house that you all have fixed up to kind of make it livable and kind of like a not
Mhm.
so great neighborhood.
right. Is that would that be acceptable where like it's the same building, but like the garage is Leto's space and it is like a totally different look than the rest of like it's its own carved out
Yeah, sure. Yeah, yeah.
space?
Cool. Awesome. And yes. Okay. So the final thing we need to do is kind of create some factions who are working against you. So this is pretty simple. It's not like a whole thing. It's kind of just imagine based on everything that's happening in Miami. It's partially flooded. You've got like rich districts and poor districts, and you have the beaches, the resort economy, weird subcultures, like all of these things happening. What are the things? What are the groups in Miami, the factions in Miami that are oppressing you in particular, but also your neighborhood? So they have all personally, you have personally been hurt by the system, and these are the factions are representing the system that has hurt you. And so I just kind of have like some basic idea, like basic ideas of factions. That could be gentrification, like some kind of company that is trying to build condos on the beach. You could have like cops are a great go-to anywhere. It's just hard to function. There's police brutality.
I think we talked about closed beaches, that there are private beaches that have been closed as part of this like resort complex. So that's already there as like the tourist industry moving in.
Yeah, I feel like there could be like a zoning law trying to pass where they're trying to basically kick people out of places that could then be converted into more sort of private beach resort spaces.
Okay.
I could see that all being part of like a big, like all sort of different facets of the same sort of gentrification.
Yeah. So it sounds like could the group that's driving that be a real estate company?
Yeah,
I think so. Yeah.
I was going to say I immediately thought about travel and tourism, right? That whole.
Yeah, I mean, after the ghost ship fire in Oakland, a lot of people lost their housing because in sort of an effort to like cover your asses, a lot of folks that were renting out spaces to like art collectives and just people that were sort of cramming into places to keep rent cheap.
Yeah, a lot of people that were like, oh shit, we don't think our buildings are up to code.
Right.
So there was this
And so instead of trying to get them
Massive
in code
shit.
or trying to like, trying to
Yeah, it
deal
was-
with it, they're just like, well, it's just safer lawsuit wise for us to just evict everybody. And I
Yeah.
completely see this sort of like pressure of the way we've described the pad so far is that it probably does not like adhere to zoning laws and fire codes and all that shit. And I could totally see like our actual home being under peril of like, it probably violates a bunch of code violations and therefore could easily be like condemned and therefore could easily be picked up by a real estate agency cheap by,
Can I say though, in defense of also those communities that did live in unsafe buildings, I think that we as a community have very strict safety rules ourselves. So even though we know that our building might be a tinderbox, we have very strict rules on open flames, and
Absolutely.
they're
Yeah.
like we are trying to make the place as safe as possible. So I don't
Right.
think that we're being irresponsible in how we're living, but we are living in an unsafe building because in defense of the people in the ghost ship, they had very strict rules about fire safety in that building.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's more of a, this is all we have available for the money we have, and we'll
Yeah.
Right. And we're doing the best we can with it.
Yeah.
But it could still be perceived from the outside, from an uncaring eye, as
Absolutely,
this is-
because
this
it's
is
the building.
right.
Cool. So this company, it sounds like they haven't hurt you yet, but they perhaps have hurt people around you.
Mhm.
And maybe
think-
you live in a shitty neighborhood, but maybe it's close to beach access or something. Like maybe it's old and run down. But when I say shitty, I just mean not
Food
not
desert.
supported by the city. Like
Yeah.
Sure.
it's a
Yeah.
food desert. There's not
Well-
a lot of monetary support going.
Is
into
this
it.
like a warehouse-ish space that is near some of these? Because I brought up, I think, was it like industrial dock area, like
Mhm.
some of that sort of thing? Is this somewhere near like the business side of like the back half of the strip where all the like ugly boats go?
Yeah.
Sort of deal. Like I don't know. I'm asking that question in general. If
I think
Yeah.
that sounds cool.
I like the idea of a bunch of like really rundown houseboats being kind of in our backyard. Like we're not right
Yeah.
on the water, but we're close enough to it. And like
Yeah.
what's there. And so maybe what they don't want is exactly where we are. What they want is the waterfront space. And then we just happen to be adjacent to it. So it's like this whole area. And to be
Yeah.
a little cliche, but honestly, it's cliche, but it's like true. The
Yeah.
whole idea of depriving an area of services so that property values really drop, and then going and buying
Yep.
that up and like gentrifying it is like absolutely within the MO of a wealthy developer. So
Cool.
actually, I think developer is more than real estate agent. Honestly, I'm thinking more of like somebody who wants to do a big tourist type development thing.
Cool.
I don't know if that.
I actually don't know much about real estate. So a developer deals more with building like multiple buildings.
Yeah, they have that. They're the people who are going to come in with like the plans for a resort or something like that, and they're certainly going to work with real estate agents and lawyers and all that. But like, rather than like caring about one property or another, they're caring about sort of the big
the whole area.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Cool. And so what should their name be? Like something cheesy like Sunshine Developers, or like
I'd kind of like some names on it, like
yeah.
Brunswick and Cole, or like something like just names of people. I don't know.
But
Yeah.
gross, like Guilford and
Mhm.
Brunswick, Cole, and Guilford.
perfect.
Yeah, let's do it.
I love it.
Okay.
Not to besmirch any of those names, but
Can we?
Does it turn into BFG? But no.
BCG?
BCG. Okay.
BCG,
I think
of
it would be
course.
called BCG, right? Like that's
Yeah,
probably-
we would call it
Yeah.
BCG.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry, Karen. I talked over you. You were saying
No, that was fine.
Okay.
It is 3:00 EST. Is it break time?
yeah.
Sounds great.
So, all right. So we'll be back in a few minutes, everyone, and we'll find out about BCG and all their awfulness then. See you all soon. Hello and welcome back to Actual Play Sync. We were just describing the factions involved, and we have one already, a
Yeah.
developer who wants to take our land.
So this is important. The reason we're creating factions, if you can, Sean, if you can go to page 23 of the PDF, I don't know if that's possible to share.
It is super possible. 1 second, let me click
Yeah.
the clickety things.
This is a huge mechanic in the game. Basically, we're creating the factions that you will be going up against, and there's a whole sheet that kind of describes the group moves that you can make as characters to lower the power of the factions that we have in play. So we'll probably have three. Three is a good number. So we've got BCG Incorporated, Brunswick, Cole, and Guilford, the real estate developers. Real estate developers, is that what they're called?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so we just need two more real quick. And then I will basically establish their strength as dictated by those dots. So I will say, the biggest one you're up against is this one. And so that will take the longest in the narrative.
Mm-hmm.
So what other factions do you want represented? We've got that one. There could be something to do with, the water, industry monopolies, corrupt local government. I mentioned the cops before, corrupt health companies. Those are all kind of ideas of factions that could potentially work. I'm trying to think of other things that would affect you directly, like something to do with cars, something to do with transportation, like making transportation hard.
I feel like there's a lot of ways in which our existence, just what we do, is sort of criminalized by nature. The fact that Lito likes to drive fast is going to perhaps get him in trouble because of affiliation with other just like,
well, he also used to be a carjacker.
Yeah, right.
So...
Tess has done some illegal stuff.
Yeah.
Brain. I know how
Nash.
things work. Nash has done some illegal stuff, and what Tess is doing is like, it's not borderline. It is legal, but it's kind of more in the misdemeanor. But it becomes public nuisance when she's going and setting up exhibits and like breaking down current designs and putting her own stuff in their place. So yeah.
I have an interest thinking about when we're pushing against one of the themes I feel like we've talked about is about like the idea of neighborhoods and them being purposefully destroyed and killed, right? And like kind of like cut off at the roots. And another thing that we've talked about a little bit when in regards to Tess and like Tessa's public parks and like who counts, who gets to use public spaces. Mm-hmm. So I'm very interested in a minute about the idea of government controlling who's good enough, right? Who's a citizen and who's not a citizen, and some of the like access to resources as a result. Like, funny how there's no transportation means to get to healthcare, food desert, like all these other ways in which the folks who live to serve like the tourism economy are like purposefully oppressed and kept in these positions of serving. Mm-hmm. So it's complicated, but thinking about both like access to health, all of the things that we deal with every day,
like sort of city services, like municipal level management that is probably both consciously and unconsciously depriving people of services. Like there's a sort of a tent encampment on our way to work. There's a couple, but one of them, they just built this big ass fence around where a lot of the tents were and pushed everybody that was living in tents like closer to the street. So they were kind of
just pushed them down the park. Like BART, the transit company, like claimed part of the park as theirs and put out a perimeter, but just on half of it.
Right. So now, like, the tents all disappeared and then they came right back, but now they're all really close to the road. And so they're dealing with like more road noise and there's less room for them. And
Mhm.
like, I think, and that was just sort of a unilateral thing someone did, right? Like someone who's just like, that's my property, I'm going to put a big fence in it, make it so that you can't, make it. So I feel like that kind of move can be done, and like, and it's just like no one's accountable for it, right? Like a crew
Mhm.
just comes out and like starts setting something up, and they never asked anybody, they never warned anybody, and like they just like cut off access to people.
Sure, they don't treat it like they don't treat any of the impacts as having a human cost.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I'm hearing maybe corrupt local government and law enforcement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because law enforcement is like spooky and scary, right? Like
Mhm.
as a thing that like is, I think, important to acknowledge, and also like, what do you got, Sean?
I don't want to,
Mhm.
I feel like this is a really cynical perspective, but I want to voice it, and we can certainly exit if we don't like it. I don't think it's actually corrupt local government, because I don't think it's something that you could expose and someone would say, that's corruption, you're going to go to jail for doing these awful things. I think it's local government, exploitative local government, using all the loopholes that they have to
Mhm.
benefit the city at the expense of the people in it, or benefit the wealthy in the city at the expense of people in it. And it's not something where you can easily be like, that person's embezzling money, haha, we catch them. It's more like, we have to prove that what they're doing is actually really harmful, rather than like the
Their
Scooby-Doo moment of like pulling their mask off. So
I
so
like
yeah,
that.
to me, I don't think it's corrupt, unfortunately. I think it's awful, but by like legal standards, I don't think it would be considered corruption, which is
Sure.
shitty.
Yeah. It reminds me of like I don't really know personally much about this. I know about it fictionally. Like I can think of like in The Wire how they kind of portray Baltimore, and how there are all kinds of different politicians working, different angles, and there might be one or two corrupt politicians or people who are involved, but a lot of people are more trying to survive, trying to make money, just having different agendas that don't
Yeah.
necessarily
Mhm.
have to do with helping the city.
Right.
I
So
don't think it's cynical. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, I think that's a better word.
Mhm.
It's adults.
Yeah.
But that's
It's
the
people in
biggest
power.
action.
Yeah.
Being an adult. Okay, so we have an exploitative local government,
Mhm.
and we also have the cops, law enforcement.
Is that one faction, or is that two? Because if
Two.
that's two, I think that, okay, then I think that's all of us, right? Because we need three.
Mhm.
Yeah, we got three. So they probably won't come up right away. If we get to roll, I think we might get to role playing this session. Yeah, I mean, we were taking our time, so that's fine. And we have like a really complex, cool situation set up. So basically, what I will do is I will make like a face for each of those factions, and that's kind of how you will see them, or who will be kind of more in control of that faction. Not necessarily that you have to take them down, like that's not the Scooby-Doo villain, but that's kind of like a representation of them. And I guess we have everything now.
I'm sorry to delay things more, but I have one framing question that's important.
Absolutely.
How did Tess and Nash break up? Like what's the actual, like beyond just being exes, like where are Tess and Nash right now? Because I think that like how they broke up, why they broke up is going to frame a lot of what their current relationship is. And I want to have like, it doesn't need to all be spelled out, but I just want to have some sort of sense. Do you have any strong feelings on it, Andy, or any feelings at all?
I have tons, so many feelings.
Yeah. Share with me.
You're playing the right game, man.
Yeah.
Yes. I get really excited thinking about the part where I wasn't expecting the part where we had talked about our characters cohabitating. Right. And so I love this idea that we have three people who are cohabitating it kind of unwillingly, is my like sense of the matter based on just us talking about it. And I love the idea of there being these like very tense, one-sided conversations where like Nash kind of really wants Tessa's attention in some fashion or another. And so there's a thing I'm very curious about, is this like this unequitable energy pointed at one another in this like cohabitating space. Like I was imagining like somebody's like eating, I don't know, like a 3 a.m. snack, right? And like I can well imagine the idea that like Tessa walks into the kitchen and Nash like wants to start talking, and Tessa like just walks right back out.
Cold.
Yeah.
So I have an imagining that there's probably some really like I'm not sure how dysfunctional the no longer being in a relationship, like in like a partner relationship was, but that like things are fine now. Do you have a sense of how was it like very difficult and then it came back like to being tenable? Is it tenable?
I mean, strained feels like the right. I mean, the way you describe that, which I can totally buy into, like I could see Nash talking to Tess, and like Tess just like turning on a power tool in the middle of the conversation, like I'm working, and like something, something that's really loud, which is super rude, and I apologize, but it's the kind of like we're not talking right now move.
Shut someone down.
That level of like, it's almost like there's a cool game where it has a move for doing that. That vibe or feeling I totally can get behind, but I still feel like I need to know like what happened, at least at some level. Was it a big fight? Did one of them like, did they have a disagreement about, is it like an ethical ethical disagreement about like what we should be doing? Was it like way more personal, like one of us slept with the wrong person without telling the other person and like we had an agreement? Was it like our parents, like I kind of just want to get a sense of like what
totally
drew us apart, because obviously there's like a draw to each other, I think.
So then what's the pushing away?
What's keeping the characters from enjoying one another? Because I don't want to posit that like Tess has no interest in Nash. Like to me that's boring. Like if I'm just like, oh, I'm totally done with you, that right. There's no chemistry there. I would like there to be a reason why Nash still loves Tessa, but Tessa doesn't love Nash, or at least at the moment. It's complicated.
Remind me of what Tessa's sex move is. Like I'm trying to think about, and like what the glitched is. It.
Yeah, Tessa's sex move is sex is give and take with you. You have a lot of it, and you're used to the ensuing game. I can either give all of us +1 forward, like both people +1 forward. I can get +1 forward, and they get -1. I can like put someone out, or they can need to give me a gift.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Okay. So what this sounds to me like Nash doesn't want to play games. And like it's all like, even though Nash's sex move is about like it's just another gig. And like it's super about like very service oriented, if you will.
Yeah.
I have this idea of like there's always maybe Tessa's like always playing the like networking game, even in intimate relationships.
Right.
And that like Nash is just like adores Tessa and cannot fucking deal.
Right. And I totally see that. And I think from Tessa's perspective is you're making it too serious. We never commit, like we never agreed to that. Like you don't own me, and like you can't like let's just have fun. And we can't just have fun. Okay, fine. I don't want to be a part of it then. Like if that isn't like it. Okay, cool. I dig it.
Does that feel like a good, suitably like uncomfortable sad without like?
Yeah, no, it feels real, and it feels like something that is fluid as well. Like that's as of the last we left off. I think then Tessa was the one to be like, well, fine, if you can't accept me for who I am, then fuck it, we're not a thing anymore. And that's her perspective on it, is this is who I am, so you can't ask me to like change the way I feel about sex and intimacy. So that's not to say that is the truth. That is just her perspective.
I love
cool. That feels very real to me. I like that.
Do you both feel good about your past relationship, your current relationship? No?
I feel much better.
What's going on? Your characters, rather, not yours.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, are we still there? You are all glitching.
You're good. We're
Okay.
here.
Okay,
Yep.
weird. Mine froze, so let me know if I'm weird. So, I mean, I am weird, I guess, but so let me, I think what I will do is briefly explain the rules, just like your agenda in play. And then we can do some quick workshops. And then we might do an intro scene.
Cool.
That might be what we can do in the time we have today. So really quick, if you can look at the basic moves, it's page 19. So the things you can do in this game, you know, as I said previously, it's a feels-focused, activist, non-violent game. So there isn't like a violence move, right? But most of the moves are based around like feelings, social interactions. So you can get intimate. That doesn't necessarily mean sex, but any kind of intimacy. You can gossip. You want to learn about people through gossip. That's the move you want to do. You can fuck this. You can have an argument with somebody. So if you're like, fuck this, we're fighting, it's fine. You know, and then there's like results, what happens after the argument. You can diffuse something. So you can either disable a piece of tech or de-escalate a situation. That's what diffuse is. Did someone have a question? I heard noise. No? Okay. You can pause. So when you're overwhelmed, you need to pause and take a moment. And what happens is you kind of look around you and you describe things in your environment in order to kind of chill out, like on a meta level. You can be vulnerable if you want to open up to someone emotionally. You can try to do pattern recognition, where you're trying to recognize patterns in disparate bits of data. That's a little bit of a Apocalypse World, stare into the abyss, but different. And you can calibrate. So if you feel like you've had a misunderstanding, you can try to figure out what's going on, why you're misunderstanding that person. So those are kind of the moves you can do. It's a little bit of emotional intelligence, a little social aware, savvy, a little bit of action type things. And you want to try and make moves in order to gain points. So if you look at your character sheets, you have these points. There are sync points and connectivity points. You need both of them. So every time, you need to highlight stats. Every time you roll a highlighted stat, you mark a sync point. So you're going to roll those stats when you're making moves, right? So try to make moves. Sync points, and then we have connectivity points. Every time you support another PC by listening and validating their emotions, you mark a connectivity point. You're basically doing emotional work, emotional labor for the other PCs in character, right? So you're getting closer to people by doing those things. So those points, you have to collect them in order to make moves against the factions. Different amounts of points allow you to do different amounts of group moves, different kinds of group moves. And that's kind of like on the group move sheet. And there's different things. You can game that if you want to, you know, basically the more points, the better, the bigger the thing you can do. But so you can either use those points to do those group moves, or you can use those points to buy more moves for yourself. So it's kind of like, are you working together as a group to defeat the factions? Are you trying to improve yourself? How do you do both at the same time? That's the basic economy of the points in the game. Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. I was going to ask, like, what's the selfish option? Because sometimes people are selfish. And that's.
I mean, basically, you all have to use them collectively. So you all either spend, you know, 1 point each, or it doesn't get done. So if one of you decides to buy a personal move instead, then you can't make a group move.
Nice.
Woof.
Dig it.
So try and make as many moves as possible. And that means both the basic moves and also, of course, the moves on your character sheet, right? So that's kind of how that works. Just in general, you can get conditions. That's kind of like damage. You don't have physical damage in this game. You just have conditions. And you also have like the glitch option, which is basically when you're isolated, you start having trouble and can't function as a real person and you need healing. So yeah, I think that's pretty much the way, a good description of basically the mechanics as they work, and we can get more into them as we go, because I'm the type of person that I need to like actually use things in order to understand how they work instead of having it described to me. And I think that's useful.
Yeah.
And you'll always be rolling 2d6 because this is Powered by the Apocalypse. So what we can do, I have these workshops, these 2 workshops to kind of help you get into character and get into this cyberpunk world. And I would like to experiment with them quickly. I don't think they'll take too long.
Awesome.
So basically, the first workshop, these are on page 26. I'm sorry to jump around on you, Sean.
It's all good. I'll pull it up.
Thank you. I don't know what to call you. You're like the character sheet tech.
Well, what I was calling myself in the last show was the host.
Host. It also sounds a little like that Korean horror movie, like you could be a monster.
Yeah.
That would be unfortunate.
All right, we have the workshops up.
You could have
Or at
more
least-
tentacles. Sorry. Okay, so the workshops, the 2 workshops that, this is kind of a mess, this sheet, but the ones I want to focus on are how future people talk. So how we can all talk in the game and how to describe things. So in Cyberpunk, there's always like these weird, this weird lingo, and there's always like future stuff around you. But like, how do you, I don't know, how do you envision that or imagine that in an easy, quick way? So that's what these workshops are trying to help us do, me, myself included. So the first one, help future people talk. Include a made-up brand name in a sentence. So, brands are a big deal in cyberpunk futures. So practice coming up with ridiculous brand names. So as an example, I'm taking my KDB to the club tonight. They're so special. Or these 60s are so bling. Or she ain't got nothing on my Prada. So like kind of incorporating, like say a sentence, come up with a random brand and just put it in there. So who wants to start?
The Croakers. Croakers has the best noms. Is that okay? Like,
Yeah.
I know I'm not getting the right vibe to it, but like, oh, Croakers has the best noms.
Yeah, you just named a brand name. It's a food place. We don't know what it is. Cool. Awesome. Karen?
Oh, I don't know.
3 letters and a situation. This is important. I want your feedback on these because it's like improv stuff. But
I'm sorry, I'm totally blanking because I'm just trying to think about what would
Leto care about?
Yeah, what would Leto talk about? And it's car stuff, and I as a player know nothing about cars.
I don't know too much about cars either. So like coming up with a car part name.
All I know from Fast and the Furious is that they would call nitrous oxide NOS. And that was like a slang for if you were using nitrous in your car to boost it.
Totally.
That's all I know.
I think you could talk about some made up brand of NOS or something like that. Like that's a
thinking about brands of tools, like there are specific, depending on like what corner of the world you live in and that require tools, like tools are important. And so like I
Yeah.
could see where Lito might have like the brand of tools or might know the exact right ones to get from which set. Like just thinking about what might that look like.
Yeah.
Like in the same way that like I love my OXO like can opener.
Right.
Mhm.
Right. Like you know I have all like DeWalt tools. Like that is my brand identity probably.
DeWalt. Could we shorten that somehow? Would people have?
Oh, the Deweys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do that.
Sweet.
That
Awesome.
takes a little bit of getting to. So I see how I need to fix this workshop. You kind of have to think, what's a contemporary brand? How can you apply it to a future situation? Okay, what's
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
good? Cool. All right, Andy, do you have one?
Oh. How many I'm in this similar boat in that I'm like, okay, what can I reach for now?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, well, it's
Well,
like, what does your character talk about? We'll start with
Yeah.
that. Like, let's go to a subject area.
Sure. So it's gonna end
Yeah.
up being
Skateboards.
skateboards and tech.
Skateboards and tech.
I think is what a lot of that looks like. And so like a lot of the tech stuff is going to be probably as much of a like obnoxious metaphor as I can make it, right? So it's going to end up being something about like you have to let the garden grow.
Mhm.
Super, I don't even know. I don't know yet. And then like brands, I'm trying to think about like what are like how do I borrow contemporary brands and like make them short and snappy, right?
Mhm.
Or like
Mhm.
like the Concrete Paradises deck is the best one going. Clearly.
Cool.
yeah. That sounds
love
great.
Mhm.
Yay! Awesome. Okay, we did good.
Yeah.
So think about ridiculous
Brands.
Yeah.
brand name.
Mhm.
Am I-
Naming things like makes them feel like cool. We're connected. Like now there's a food
Yeah.
truck named Kroger's, right? Like now there's a
Yeah.
right.
It's funny because it sounds like you're saying Kroger's, which is also a grocery store.
Yeah.
Oh, right. I was saying croaker, like
Yeah. Like a frog.
like a frog
Mhm.
croaks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
That's funny. Cool. Thank you. This is the first time I've done these. That's great feedback. So I should have done this first, maybe. Shorten and slangify everything. So practice taking current words and shortening or changing them. So for example, fan fiction to fic.
Mhm.
You know, product end of life. So instead of saying end of life, you say EOL. Or complex concepts replaced with references. If you get caught, they'll 94 you. Where 94 is like a legal act. So, you know, 187 and stuff like that. So what's a word that might be relevant to Tessa's character? Like some kind of thing that she might say every day. She's thinking about furniture a lot. Maybe.
Yeah. Well, so the first thing I thought of was like a police interaction, which is people just, and this is definitely cribbed a lot from The Wire, but people just yelling out 16, and that being because 16 is the average response time for an officer to respond to a call. So if like anyone's done anything, like if anybody's like gotten into a fight or anything like that, people would be like yelling like 16 as like a warning that like ostensibly if someone just called that in, the average response time for an officer to get to the site is 16 minutes. And like it kind of being, I don't know how much you want this to be, but like it kind of being like a whoa, like, oh, you just did some shit. It's like 16 because like that theoretically could bring a cop by as just a way of saying like that's a notable thing you just did, whether it's actually illegal or not. Like it probably is because everything we do is illegal. But I don't know. Is that fit in your in this idea? Am I doing it right?
Yeah. I don't think I think it's more the practice of saying it than coming up with something that is setting
Okay. Yeah.
But I think that's great. So thinking of like, thinking of 16 is a great example. 100%. Cool. You're slangifying an action. The cops are coming.
Yeah.
Cool. Andy or Karen, do you have some slang, some shortenifying or slangifying of a word?
I'm really excited about DNK.
What's DNK?
I do not care. DNK, yo.
Ha.
Out.
I like how care is a K. Cool. Karen.
I wanna use TTL to the limit.
Nice.
To the limit, because
Mhm.
you're a driver. I feel almost like because Lido doesn't even speak very much. That might be funny to just throw out.
Yeah.
Mhm.
TTL in like network tech terms is time to live. It's like how long a
Ha.
packet stays alive. So I love the idea of like TTL being like recontextualized. Like maybe it never meant that in our world, but like it also could have meant that. And now it's been like recontextualized because like time to live and to the limit have like a very similar, even though time to live is like very boring, it just means like, oh, this packet exists for 5 milliseconds, right? Like it's not very
Mhm.
interesting, but like yeah, I like that a lot.
Absolutely. Cool. And I mean, car people probably don't even know text slang, so.
Well, and it's the kind of thing where it like can cross over and then it can change what it means. Like it could have come from there and then it could have just changed into something else, and now that's what it means, right? Like language is rad like that. It gets to change and have different meanings.
This is true.
It's true. Cool. Okay, and then the second section is how to describe things. So look at the pause move real quick.
That was on page 19.
Basic moves, yeah. So pause. You're overwhelmed and you need to pause. Take a moment to regain your composure. Look around you and describe one from the list. So the list is nearby architecture,
Mhm.
neon, rain, or vehicles, something that seems foreign to you in taste, smell, or touch, or the sounds of the metropolis, sirens, machines, alarms, and beeps. And so for this workshop, let me back down. So the pause move is kind of like an example of scene on scene. So that's like in anime or manga, when they show you what's around a character, but they're not actually showing you the character. So that's
Mhm.
seen in Ghost in the Shell when they're on boats and they're like looking all around. That's kind of like what you're doing when you're doing this. So let's practice real quick. We can practice the pause move. But instead of describing things that are cyberpunk, we can describe things that are around us right now. So I'll start. So I take a moment to compose myself. And, you know, by doing so, I look to my left and I can see, you know, my Instax camera. And that reminds me of all the times recently at parties that I've taken pictures of my friends. And I remember I have so many friends, and that makes me feel a lot better. Something like that doesn't have to be even that applicable. Like you don't even have to say like, my friends make me feel good. But there's an object nearby that you're looking at. Who wants to go next?
It's funny. I thought of something similar. So I'm in our bedroom right now, and I'm looking at our bedspread, which is this kind of Irish designer who I'm mildly obsessed with. Her aesthetic, and I've sought out a lot of pieces of hers, and it kind of ties me particularly to a place in Ireland where I have a lot of friends.
Cool.
Mhm.
That's awesome. Andy or Sean?
I'm looking up at my shelf right now and I see I have like all these like knickknacks and mementos, and
Mhm.
one of the things that I see are and I'm just going to show them because I can, are these dice that I forged ish, that I like took a blacksmithing class and like hammered myself, and they're not even and they don't roll evenly, and they took like 4 hours to make, and they're just like a square with divots in them. But I loved the like heat of the forge, and like as I think of Tess as like building things, like I remember like the visceral experience of like how much work it actually takes to build something. Like it's a lot of work, and but it's really really rewarding.
Cool.
And it's just nice and heavy and clunky.
Forging is great. It reminds me of college. Okay. Let us continue. Andy?
I have the pleasure of sitting here at my desk, and to my left is my living room, which is slightly shambly and very cozy. And to my right is out my balcony and the slider door. I've got a couple of plants that are working and growing, and I can hear the hum of the street down below. And I'm looking forward to hear when the weather turns. I have a really great, like, packs up tight hammock that I'll put out, and I'll get to hang out with the lavender plant that's out there and growing and the succulents. And like looking forward to like hiding and falling asleep in my hammock. Any day now, it will be warm enough that I will want to do this thing. And being in my home and the sound of traffic and looking forward is very powerful and important and grounding.
So you actually started drifting into the second thing, which is sensory perception.
You're advanced, Andy.
Yeah, you are. That was ridiculous. And by ridiculous, I mean very good.
Shucks.
So sensory perceptions, practice describing with senses other than sight. So for example, you know, a thing you smell, a thing you feel, something you taste, something that you're touching. So I can, with all of the technology running in my room right now, I can kind of smell like the burning electricity of my old laptop. Like it's actually pretty warm in here because the light is coming in from my windows. And it kind of smells like burning wires a little pulling. Sean, do you want to go next?
Sure. Just like 3 seconds ago, my phone buzzed because John Harper liked a tweet that said we'll have the VODs up, and I heard the buzz, and it's like low enough that I don't worry about it like interrupting the stream. But I heard it, but like I swear I also felt it, and I don't think I actually could feel the vibration like through the desk, through the floor, through my chair, and into me. But like it seemed like I could. Like I think it's like the phantom feeling of like that it vibrates, and so you feel the vibration. Feel the vibration. Sorry, a little Marky Mark reference that I can't resist sometimes. And these chairs that Karen picked out have this really great rounded lumbar support, and so despite my back being crappy, I feel nicely supported and held up, and like my butt is very like well seated in this chair. They're fashionable and desirable and also comfy, which is like sometimes at odds, right?
It is.
Like doesn't
for fashion.
Yeah, right.
I didn't know y'all could afford to even get your hand, I guess, be timely enough to get your hands on Tessa's designs, right? Like,
right.
Very nice. Very
cool.
How about you, Karen?
Well, I've made the mistake of, I have a very wiggly puppy in my lap, and by puppy I mean an adult dog. And I made the mistake of starting to pet him, and now he needs lots of pets, and so he's very wiggly, and every time I stop petting him, he fusses until I start petting him again. So I have a very wiggly, furry little ball in my lap. I'm trying to have him stay there.
Andy?
I have been very pleasantly fidgeting with a pen, which I realize I'll start clicking it and I'm not muted. And sorry, everyone. So I've really been enjoying, I try not to chew on pens, but I only use this kind of pen because I'm picky, right? And it's very familiar, like the sensation of like where the release point is on the click. And of course, like the grip, you can spin the grip on the barrel. And so I'll spend time here, like with my fingers on like the tacky rubber grip in my other hand, like on the pen clip. And so when I look distracted, it's because I'm thinking nice thoughts about my pen.
Is your pen a ballpoint or a gel point, or what kind of point? What kind of tip is your
pen? I don't know. I don't know those words.
It's a Pilot G. It's a gel point. It's a real good pen.
Yeah. What's really important is it's the 0.38, so it's the very fine.
Yep.
Yep.
Oh, you have a very fine. Oh, that's
Yeah.
that's fantastic.
Because the 0.5s are too much.
Are too thick. Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
So apply this to a random object in our game in the future.
Yeah.
Apply
Great.
this conversation. This is a cyberpunk conversation right now.
Right.
Oh, good.
Yeah. I will lead in by saying like I have the 7 and it is very comfortable and I love it, but it is too thick. So when I'm doing the deli needles, the deli needles that I do furniture, that I do upholstery work with. I love the 0.6s because they're just strong enough to puncture really. They're just strong enough to puncture like tougher fabric, but they have a little bit of bend in them, so I could do kind of like curve work with them when I'm doing like the real, like most of my stitching is all automated. It's all with a machine. But when I go around corners, I have to do that by hand. And so like I love the deli 0.6s because they like give me just enough angle that I can get the curvature that I want and make a nice round edge.
Yeah.
Perfect. Very good. Cool. So those are the workshops. And I believe that's almost all of our time, to be honest. But those are some things I'm trying to work on to help people kind of get into the world and kind of talk a little bit more cyberpunky, because I think it's the fun thing.
Should not both Andy and Karen also make a reference to a thing that they like in the actual setting rather than
you could. That wasn't actually part of the workshop. I was just teasing.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Conversation.
I got excited. You're like, you do that thing. I'm like, okay, cool. I'll do it. I'm excited.
I mean, if you are you excited to Andy and Karen? Because that is totally fine, actually.
I want to keep forward on what we were talking about because I really like ending with Sean's
Yeah.
enthusiasm and doing the thing. I'm just really happy about that. So thank you, Sean.
Okay, cool.
If that, I don't want to cause you to be left out of the good fun, Karen, if you want to be part of it.
No, I'm good. It's all
Okay.
good.
Cool. So I think maybe instead of kind of jumping into short role play, maybe that would be too short of a thing.
Mhm.
But we could highlight stats for next time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh.
And then you could all give me some quick feedback, some roses and thorns about some things you experienced today. And I think that'd be great if that works for everybody.
Absolutely. Karen, timing wise, do you have time to stick around for Roses and Thorns, or do you want to
I've got like 15. I've got like 15 minutes.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Excellent. So we're not going to take a break then. We're just going to go through until the end. Normally we take a break now, but cool.
Great.
Cool.
How do we highlight?
Well, I don't know actually. I just realized. I think probably we'll just go around the table. That's fine. And I'll highlight one, and you can each highlight each other. So maybe Sean, you can do Nash's, you can do Andy's character, and Nash, you can do Vito.
Cool.
Cool. Rad is just a reminder for me. Rad is like looking cool and being like looking awesome in front of people, right? Is that
it's kind of like a cool stat.
the cool stat, right?
Yeah.
Savvy is knowing about stuff
Yep.
and observing, learning things. Tough is like, sorry.
Oh, no, I just want to clarify, it's also like social savvy.
Mm.
So all kinds of intelligence, social and knowledge. Yeah.
Right. Tough is physical and emotional resilience, like taking stuff. And tech is like working with bits.
Yes, it's like tech is both technology and like the tech of how people work.
Oh, nice.
Mm-hmm.
Like all the tools we learn, or I learn when I go to therapy, like that, like all the rad, like technology of like systems of how to be a person and try to be good to yourself and other people. Like if I was going to think about it, Great.
Absolutely. So cool. I forget, Sean, who you're highlighting?
I'm highlighting Nash, and Nash, you have a move called um, Delicate, which is you're delicate and causes you to be you're delicate. Your delicate causes you. I'm misreading something. It causes you to be so sensitive. It means you can see when other people are sensitive. Roll plus tough, and on a 10 plus, you can see right through someone and then reveal an exploitable weakness. And I really want to see that move in play. So I'm checking. Also, I kind of want to see you dealing with your own emotional hardships, as it were, and that might be tough roll as well. So tough is not your like best stat, but I do want to see it. So
Cool. Sounds great. I love it.
Cool. I'm going to highlight your tech, Nash, because that's also how you decipher things and how you interact with technology and people.
Yeah, super into it. All
so
right.
Nash, you're gonna do Lido, I think.
All right. If I had a sense of all the good stuff, I am very curious about. So Savvy is about a lot about like social cues and like kind of. Do I get the impression there's some like self-reflection stuff there, or like potentially? I don't have driver's moves in front of me, so I don't feel like there's something I'm in a position to specifically target. But Karen, go ahead.
So for the basic moves, Savvy allows you to gossip and be vulnerable, for example.
Where did the basic moves go? What page are those on?
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. But I mean, you can gossip about people, and you can be vulnerable, which is a funny thing to highlight for a driver character who is like pretty quiet and not too emotionally immune. And I think of what else Karen has on her sheet.
Far away is a move, but it doesn't say what you roll.
It doesn't.
Can't deal with something, just drive on a 10 plus. what?
That seems like a Savvy thing, to be honest.
I'm excited about Savvy because in part, Karen, the idea of Lido being really good about the nonverbal stuff, and like I'm not sure where those intersect, and like hopefully that's exciting. I'm very curious about Lido sort of navigating things and the idea of this noping out and being vulnerable, which might not be Lido's first pick. So I hope that is something that you look forward to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Red.
I'm going to highlight your tough, Karen.
Cool.
Lido's tough. Sorry, because Lido is tough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a tough cat.
I would posit that Karen is pretty tough.
Karen's a badass.
Well.
Thank you.
Karen is also tough. It's true. You got some bleed going on there with your character stats. Key. And then Lido, could you please highlight, or Karen, could you highlight Tessa's stuff?
Yeah, let me look at Tessa's character.
It's page 7. Well, it's page 8.
I think I want to highlight Tessa's Savvy as well.
Cool.
Sweet.
Awesome. I am going to highlight Tessa's Rad.
Rad.
She's real cool. She's real rad. Awesome. So we're ready. We are primed.
We're so ready.
Our next session.
Yeah.
2 shorter sessions, and us taking our time. I think it took a little bit longer to get through this stuff. So thank you for and awesome choices. So I guess we can just kind of end there with character stuff and jump into some roses and thorns. I have to leave. Do you want to go first?
I mean, I love all the world building down to the little details of food and sights and smells and sounds. I think with making up language, breaking down steps is a little bit easier. So definitely giving people the steps. Like, well, think about what's the world, like what's something that your character is going to talk about all the time. Okay, what's a brand that you might know or a phrase that you might know in that world. Now, how do you shorten that? And it seems really obvious, but like have those obvious steps to help people create language.
Yeah, I mean, it was not obvious to me until we started doing it today. So that's really
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think it was good, and we got good stuff out of following that process. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. I agree with that 100%, and I'm writing it down. Were those both of yours?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Cool. Anyone else? A good thing and a thing that could use some improvement.
Andy has thoughtful face on, so I want to give you opportunity to.
I am in the minute. I have no complaints for my experience in the process of us going through like leisurely setup. And I'm wondering around some of the palette building things that we did. I wonder if all of those things have to happen in setup to successfully build a vibrant community. I wonder.
Mm-hmm.
That is the sum of my for example, I love talking about food, and I wonder if waiting to talk about food could have potentially waited until being in the moment, because it could have been derived based on the demographics that we identified. For example, like there's other places to pull some of those ideas from. And so I have a curiosity about if waiting to do some of those things until we're in the middle of it, so that then they may be a little more poignant, or maybe they don't need to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking at like what of this needs to happen when and in what order, depending on how important it is to get into the play after prep is complete, because I think that prep is play, can be play. So
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I love character creation the most in games. World building is so for me. This is world building for me, to be honest.
Cool. Okay.
So I agree with you, and I kind of made a huge list as a test. I haven't done this before.
Awesome.
So, I was thinking, like, should I put subculture on the character sheets? But then isn't it more important to each city? And that's where my brain kind of did this.
Yeah.
Like how much to detail and how much to allow to happen and spontaneously in play. If it happens spontaneously in play, it probably won't be as detailed or specific. But if it happens ahead of time, will it be too detailed and specific, or will it take too much time?
Will it take a lot of time and then never come up?
Yeah. Or will we all remember that there are Cuban sandwiches now? So
I will not forget that.
That you will carry that flag.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Thank you,
Karen.
I adore. So my thorn is tied around the same thing, which is my concern for playability in a con slot setting or on a Twitch stream setting, where you're like, okay, we have this 3-4 hour block. How do we get a session out of it? That I think that not now. I think right now the way it's working is great, but I think that when it's not in development and playtest mode, and when it's getting closer to reaching out to anybody mode, I think it's going to need to have a here's a pre-built jumping off point, because as much as I totally enjoy this, I know people who have gotten out of con games and been like, we spent half the game with character creation, and I'm like, that part was fantastic, but not everybody, there should be some alternative for them, right? I love specificity. I am so excited about naming brands and bringing them in, even if they don't necessarily come back. And I'm even okay with brands and slang that we don't all even know what it means, because when you read Gibson, people use all kinds of slang, and you just have to keep hearing it until you get the context for it, and then you're like, oh, okay, I finally got it now. Which is as a role-playing game, we have the obvious out of anytime you're like, what are you talking about? And then they can just explain it. But I don't even think all slang or brands or anything like that, they're kind of more important than what they actually mean. Using them creates a verisimilitude that is feels very real. And I feel like that happens a lot in this game, where like we talk about issues that are happening in our real lives and how we see those reflected in the game. We talk about brands and things that exist, like physical objects that exist in our real lives, and how we see those in the game. Even Tess and Nash's relationship, like when we talked about it, we talked about like the kinds of interactions that people have in the real life, and like there's no like cyberpunk or future even version. That's just straight up their relationship is a real relationship. Like, and so I feel like this game is really, really good at like taking our lived experience and our known experience and transitioning it into a cyberpunk reality.
Yay, that's the idea.
Yeah.
And I think we also felt that same thing. We're really struggling with it when it came to things that aren't our lived experience, like playing people of color, right? We're like, I don't know how to do that because I don't have a lived experience to speak to it. And like we definitely identified those areas where we were on shakier ground.
I think I'm gonna have to write a section about how to play people of color in a near future setting.
Yeah. You might not be the right person to write it.
What's
honestly.
that?
You might not be the right person to write it.
You might need a consultant for that.
Absolutely. I mean, like as a white person. Because I mean, there's some flexibility when it comes to sexuality and gender, right? But when it comes to race, it's way more complicated. Obviously, get some feedback on that. And I don't really know how to do it 100%, but I do know that, you know, imagination and empathy are good. And it is the near future, but like getting race 100% in a fictional setting, I think is hard.
Yeah.
I have to go.
Okay.
But this was amazing. This was super fun. So I think I'm just gonna mute my mic and maybe push my camera down a little bit so it doesn't mess up everything.
Sounds
right.
Good.
Okay, cool. All right. Thank you so much. It was lovely seeing everyone.
Bye, Karen. Happy field tripping.
Yeah.
Let's have our characters make moon eyes at each other soon.
Yeah.
Leo gives best moon eye, I'm sure.
I can only imagine, like the moon eye and like doesn't say anything.
Yeah.
He's pretty smoldering.
Yeah.
It seems that way.
I'm sure Nash, I haven't been imagining that Nash can't stand it, since Nash, in my imagination, is someone who keeps talking. What have I done to myself?
Love it.
The character that keeps talking, it is. Yeah.
It's good tension. I love it.
You took your Girl by Moonlight character and said, I want to do something different.
Yes, I did.
And
And here we are.
A+.
I would like to take a moment very briefly as a Rose and acknowledge the part where I feel that I am, and I feel like I have shared this experience with you all, being like, race is complicated. Andy, I'm a white person. How do I not be a shitheel? And I feel like we've done a good job of owning that, like, we don't know what we're doing and we give a shit. And so, like, I feel good about that, even though I don't want to be like, here, have a you did an okay white person cookie. Right? Like, I don't know how to have a balance there about being self-aware about working on a thing. It's hard. I don't need accolades and I don't want them. That's not the point.
Right.
That complicated everything on top of all the rest of the wonderful complicatedness.
Yeah.
I feel good about that.
We care and we're trying our best and we're willing to make mistakes and we're being vulnerable about it. I think that those are all important things.
Yeah. And I think the best thing that we can get is, much as they will be hard to hear, or they might be hard to hear, is critiques when we're fucking it up. Right.
Yeah.
Like if we do, like, I hope that we continue to always be acting with the best intentions, but when those go like when we fuck up anyway, or
receive the gift of critique, like I would feel very like honored if someone would take the time to tell me I was fucking up.
Yes,
it'd be a real gift.
Absolutely, it is work to do that. However, I am always open to feedback when it comes to like any kind of diversity that I might be making a mistake about, especially as the GM. It's hard to GM NPCs with diversity. So we're all open to that.
Right. The demographics part of the game was intimidating for all of us. And it
seems like it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I feel like on the one hand, it's like representation, like it's one hand, it's there's something to say about like staying in your lane and like not trying to express that you can like understand the ways in which somebody deals with shit that you've never experienced. And on the other hand, like, yeah, we need more people of color in in games, right? So in every facet, playing games, represented in games, and in every way, right? Like
Absolutely.
designing games. So
yeah, and I think we're just in the weird situation where we are in an all-white stream, which I don't think I don't know, it doesn't happen to me too often in as far as like gaming in real life. But I guess this is real life, it's just the internet. So I think that makes that just a little bit more difficult. We don't have too much racial diversity, demographic diversity like on screen, which makes it a little different. We'll try our best to represent things and feature Miami and demographics, I think, as best we can. But I want to come up with a way for that to be comfortable in a group of all white people. If we're sitting down to play a cyberpunk game, and it's, especially if you're dealing with racial oppression or cities, I think it's just really important. Like, I think if it was ignored and it wasn't included, it would be a short sight. So I'm trying to figure out how to do that balance of this is a good way to do it and this is educational.
Sure. I find it interesting that you speak to wanting folks to be comfortable about it. In contrast, I would imagine that one would want to encourage people to like get comfortable being uncomfortable. Like, yes, you are uncomfortable, keep going.
Yes.
Would be like, and I'm nitpicking on words, so I cry pardon.
Oh, it's an important thing to do. Language is important.
Okay. I don't want to be a jerk. It's very important.
You're not a jerk. You're not being a jerk. That's a really important point. I'm not up to date on a lot of my language with this stuff, but it is something I care deeply about, and I'm partially learning by trying to do this. So
yeah, I think this is a. Sorry,
Go ahead.
When you said that really resonated to me, that like this design work is by necessity a lot of like education for everybody involved, which to some degree also is including us because we're playtesting it. So I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, I think educational games are important. I think I don't think a lot of role-playing games really focus on race unless that's the point of the game. Like Steal Away Jordan or Dog Eat Dog and things like that.
Sure.
But it's important and I care about it, so I'm going to try.
Awesome.
Yeah. So anyway, thank you so much for talking with me through that and working with me on working through our uncomfortableness together. And maybe we can wrap there.
Yeah, that sounds great. Let's let everybody know who we are, what we're doing, what we're up to, and those kind of things, so folks can know where to find us. So Andy, where can folks find you? What are you doing?
I live on Twitter. You can find me on Twitter as you can find me on Twitter as Fictional Mammal. I probably will talk about my dog and being cranky about things. And if you're into that, come on by. I probably talk about being nice to people and giving a shit too, if I really think about it.
You do.
Oh, cool.
I can attest to that from knowing you on the Twitter.
Well, shucks, thanks. And you can find me here on Good Old Actual Play doing this rad thing with these amazing and wonderful people. And you can also find me doing a Girl by Moonlight game, Earth Unmade, here with Sean. And we'll be back here this forthcoming Thursday.
Yep.
Yeah. That's what I got.
Yeah. How about you, Kara?
Cool.
Folks find this game if it's available in any format.
Yeah, good question. Well, I'm Kira. You can find me on Twitter at Kira Nanzi. There is a sync playtest in the wild. There's a link that I have that I'm hosting from my Google Drive. So you could play, you could look at it from there. You could try to play it. The GM instructions aren't super great yet. But people have played it as it is. So if you want to experiment, that would be awesome. I'd love to hear your feedback. I don't know where I should put it permanently. I guess there will be a link in the YouTube video.
We'll get it there. Yeah.
Yeah. And sure. Yeah, I don't know where else to put it, to be honest. So that's a terrible answer.
Do you have a website?
I do have a website. I will put it on my website. Yeah. It's just Kira McGran at Squarespace, I think.
Great.
Cool.
Thanks, friends. You needed that help.
Technology. There's a lot of it.
I'll do a little bit for Karen. Karen 12s is an improviser and improv instructor, as well as Gamer Unlocker. She's written, and we're currently publishing Improv for Gamers, a fantastic book with lots of really simple exercises that are only a page or two long that help apply improv skills to playing games, jamming games, playing in LARPs, and all these cool things. And it should be coming out at the end of the year.
So cool. I love the part where like there's a book now, because I can't hang out with Karen all the time and have Karen like help me learn about improv things. So,
right, but
so good.
Soon you'll be able to. Yeah.
Yeah.
Real rad. We just got the cover art in from Elisa Sella. She's she's done some work for Real Hat in the past, and we've always loved her work, and this is really great. So hopefully we'll have some cover art to share soon.
That sounds super cool.
Yeah, it's, I think, a very Karen observed that a lot of people talked about improv and talked about gaming and didn't actually talk about like specific techniques that were useful, because not all of improv actually is useful in gaming. There is differences, and there are ways in which when you endow somebody with something in improv, you just have to work with it. You just be like, yeah, okay, cool, I guess I'm your mom now. In gaming, you can X card that stuff and be like, no, I don't want that. So not all this, like, you don't always say yes in games. You reject things, you curate, and you have boundaries. But there are lots of things that are super useful, like space object work and like a building off of things. And anyway, you'll be able to see all of it when the book comes out. It's called Improv
That's really
for
cool.
Gamers.
I'm very excited about that. I always could use more of those tools in my gaming in general.
And it's very much designed as a toolkit, right? Like every game is literally a spread. It's like the hashtag feminism games. Like you just open it up and there's the game, right? So you can, and there's tons of, I don't know how many. There's more than a dozen in the book.
I'm into it.
Maybe. She'll also be at Living Games Conference in May along with me, and she'll be offering one of the workshops there. So if you have coming out to Boston, come join us. And then I'll go for me. I'm Sean. I use he, him pronouns. You can find me here a lot or on the Twitters at Sean Nittner. And importantly, next month, I'm going to launch the Big Bad Con Kickstarter. Big Bad Con is a convention that I've been the steward of for some time, and I love it, and I love the rad people that come out and run really rad games. And I think all the people on this stream will be there, or at least that is our plan, to get them there one way or the other. It's good stuff. So keep an eye out for that. It's in the Bay Area in October. So if you're watching this game and you love this game, you will love the games of Big Bad. I think it's a pretty safe bet. So I think that's it. We all good?
We're all good.
Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna click the things that I should have already been clicking. This is my problem with doing the end of the outro, is that then I have to like click things and have them ready. So, but here we go, everyone. You have a great day. Oh wait, one more thing. If you like Kira and want to see Kira playing games, you can hop over to twitch.tv/actualfactual and watch Kira playing another game in like an hour.
It's true.
Or so.
I'll be playing Girl by Moonlight.
Yeah.
I hear it's popular right now. It's like a lot of people are playing that game.
Pretty rad.
A lot of. Oh, go ahead.
No, I've heard nothing but a lot of stoke around this game that you're playing from many sources, and so I'm excited. That's what.
Cool.
Yeah. Wonderful. Okay. Good. Take care, all. You guys everybody have a great day.